how to master my vocabulary. What do I do to finally get some command over this language? I know you feel stuck. Vocabulary is probably that pain that takes years to improve and go away. So the thing is, if you see this video right till the end, I've got 6 really good ideas for you, very practical, and they're actually scoops from my own life. I started off exactly like you are starting today, maybe, or maybe somewhere in the middle of your journey. I started with you. I mean, just like you. Somewhere in the last 2 decades, I've been learning English for a very long time now. You can't really learn something and devote so much time to something unless you actually genuinely love it. I developed love for this language as a little child. I don't know, I just find it really fancy and I like the way words flow. I like the way I sound. Look good when I speak Hindi too. I know that, but English is something I teach. It's my job. It's my work now. And I devote a few hours every single day towards improving this language, my skills of English speaking and my overall work. I want to do a better job every single day. And a very important area of this job of learning to speak well in English and teaching it well is vocabulary. So there are these 6 points that I want to talk about with you. They're going to solve this problem of vocabulary and how to learn vocabulary and how to master it for you forever. Of course, it will require work from you. It will require your decision making. It will require your practice. But this is a good start to your journey. And if you follow all these 6 things in your life, your journey will become easier, it will become fast, and you will very soon notice a very big change, a massive change in the way you speak. Vocabulary has a lot to do with fluency, but fluency is not something that should entirely be restricted by your vocabulary. I'm against that. I never say that fancy words should make up your vocabulary. No, just average day-to-day words are also good enough. If you have command and if you've practiced well enough, average words are good enough. They make you sound fluent, they make you sound good, and they make you sound impressive. But there is no harm in trying to learn advanced words. I have a vocabulary course too in case you're interested. Go check it out. It comes with a refund policy, so you don't have to worry about anything. But you must check it out once. I'm very proud of the course that I've created for you, by the way. Okay, let's start with the point number 1, which is I stopped collecting words and started living with them. What do I mean by this? See, back in the day when I was starting to learn English, I realized that vocabulary does not grow simply because you have seen a word once or underlined it in a notebook somewhere. No, it will not add to your vocabulary that way. You will forget it in the next 2 minutes. A word becomes yours only when it begins to move through your own sentences. So the idea is to use the word and not just read it somewhere, see it a couple of times, try and rehearse it, practice in your head. It will not become yours. It will become yours when it starts to flow in your own sentences. So I started using new words in self-talk, practice lines, my imaginary conversations. And I'm not kidding. I talk a lot with myself. I talk a lot with myself even in my mirror. I have this huge, big ass mirror in my room. And when I was getting it, people told me back around then that, what is this? Like, you'll be able to look at yourself all the time, 24/7. It's not a very good idea. I like it. I never regret it. I like having me as my company. So there's this huge 7 feet tall, big 7 by 4 feet tall mirror in my room right in front of my sofa cum bed where I sit and work. And I see myself all throughout the day. I like it. I like having company. I like my company the best. So yes, I speak with it. I speak to myself in the mirror. I make imaginary conversations and they're quite fun. They're quite fun actually. They're sometimes embarrassing also. So after saying a few sentences, I would just look around and see if somebody's listening to me or not. No, they're not. Most of the times they don't. So coming back, that is when they stopped feeling borrowed and started feeling natural to me. I'm talking about the words that I was learning, okay? Unless you start using them in your own conversation, start using them in front of you in your imaginary conversations, in the self-talks that you're having, the word will keep feeling borrowed to you. It will not feel natural to you. So make this a habit. It works. Trust me on that. It works every single time. Point number 2 is I chose depth over decorative learning. Very important point. What do I mean? I will explain. Hold on. I did not want to become someone who knew many words but used them poorly. I didn't want to be that person. Okay? So instead of chasing long, glamorous list of words. I sat with fewer words and understood them properly. So my focus was on not just learning a good word, but also understanding the true essence of the word. See, a lot of times when you open a dictionary and you try to learn the word, you can't actually grasp what the word is all about. It's almost impossible to use it in a sentence. At that moment, you don't feel sure. What is important is to truly understand the essence of it. And what I do is, when I look up a word in the dictionary, which is usually on Google these days, I look up for sentences also. I don't just look at the meaning, I look at the usage. And sometimes I ask AI to explain the usage to me. Okay, that's how I truly understand and make that word my own. This is the only way to make your vocabulary rich. The idea is not to keep piling on words on each other. No, that's not the idea. There'll be a huge pile and you'll not be able to make sense of any word. You will not be able to remember anything. You will not be able to use it in the correct way. Correct and the nice way and the right way to do this is by understanding the essence of the word, probably understanding the origin of it sometimes. The origin also helps, but okay, it's too much work. You probably do not need to do that much work. I like doing it because I love it, but you can just understand the essence of it. What are those 3 or 4 instances where this word can be used? And then gradually try and use it in your self-talk and then imaginary conversations, and then maybe gather some courage and use it in front of a friend, somebody you're comfortable using it in front of. Like this recently, I heard a word somewhere. I had heard it in the past. It wasn't a new word to me, but what I realized was, see, there is this active vocabulary and then there is passive vocabulary. There are 2 types of vocabulary for a person. Active vocabulary is the set of words that you use normally in your day-to-day language. That is your active vocabulary. Passive vocabulary is still your vocabulary. You still know those words, but you're not very comfortable using them, or they don't show up when they're needed. So instead of saying exquisite, you look exquisite, if I say, oh my God, you look beautiful. So beautiful is active vocabulary. Exquisite is passive vocabulary. I know the word, but I don't use it very often because it doesn't show up at the right time. I'm not very used of handling the word. So these are the 2 types of vocabularies every person has, right? Now, the idea is to move more and more words from passive vocabulary to active vocabulary in order to make your overall vocabulary rich. And then gradually you keep adding more words to your passive vocabulary. So passive vocabulary will have many such words that will look like familiar to you. You know the word, you've seen it somewhere, but you probably will not feel very confident in using that word. One of such words was fruition. Fruition. I had heard the word, I never really used it, but just recently I heard it from an actor that I truly love, Viola Davis. I love her. Please watch one of her speeches. One of her speeches I've covered in my English grammar course, where I took the passage and line by line explained it to students what she's talking about. So I've done that deconstruction. I think I'm using the right word here. Deconstruction of the speech she's made. I love the woman. She speaks so well. Please look at one of her speeches and you will know what I'm talking about. Viola Davis is the name. Amazing actor. Anyway, coming back. So I was talking about fruition as one of those words which I was already there in my passive vocabulary. But then what happened was I heard it in Viola's speech, one of her speeches. She was on a podcast somewhere. I heard it there. And that was the day I moved it from my passive vocabulary to active vocabulary. I used it in front of my husband because husband is my comfort zone. I can speak anything, any rubbish in front of him. Half of the times he probably would not understand if I'm misusing the word because that's how it is. You can't be sure about every word, right? But he always appreciates. Like whenever I use a good word, he tells me, oh, fruition. Huh? So yeah, that was the day it moved to my active vocabulary. Today was another day I used it in front of a couple of people I met just a couple of hours ago. So yes, I'm just telling you how words move from passive to active vocabulary. And this is how a very natural process of enriching your vocabulary. Okay. I pay attention to their meaning, their mood, very important, and the kind of sentence they belonged in or they usually belong in, and the situations where they sound graceful rather than forced. Okay. That's how I give my vocabulary roots and not just glitter and make it fancy. No, I ground it. I make it solid. I make it powerful. That's my way of doing things. Okay, point number 3 is another way, a very good strategy of enriching my vocabulary, of mastering my vocabulary and adding more and more words to active vocabulary was the way I paid attention to words in the wild. Man, I didn't get what you said. Okay, I'll explain. Some of the best vocabulary lessons did not come from textbooks. They don't, okay? You cannot. I mean, textbook learning is how you add words to your passive vocabulary, but they won't help you unless you use them and start using them in your speeches, in the way, when you're talking with people. So my learning came a lot, not from textbooks. Of course, I read. I've got a whole library here, a whole library in my studio, another studio that I have where I work from sometimes. I read a lot. It's a habit. I read at least 2 to 3 pages. Even if I'm very sleepy, I read at least, by 2 pages, I mean 4 sides, 6 to 7 sides of a novel before I sleep. I'm reading Anna Karenina these days. It's a thick novel, very nice one, classic, cult classic. Look it up if you haven't. Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, a wonderful book. A lot of my learning does not come from novels. No, it cannot, because there's so many new words. There are so many new words that you can't remember them possibly. My learning comes usually from interviews, the articles that I read, or see, articles are small, right? It's easier to remember those words. If there is a new word popping up to you in a small article, it's easier. It's easier, much easier to remember that word and look it up on Google. So my learning comes from interviews, articles, films that I see, and I see a lot of films, by the way, the speeches that I read or hear, and some well-spoken people, like I told you about Viola Davis. Shah Rukh Khan is another guy. Love his speaking prowess, the way he speaks, amazing. Priyanka Chopra is also really good. Barack Obama, Amitabh Bachchan, I love the way they speak. I love to listen to them and love learning from them. They speak with ease, and that is what I like about people. For me, well-spoken person is somebody who speaks with ease. Shouldn't look like the person is struggling with words, even if the words are really nice. Like, I have a very personal take on this. I love Shah Rukh Khan. I love his speeches. I love how witty he is. But this is just a personal opinion. Please don't mind it if you're a fan. I didn't really like his TED Talk. I'll tell you why. It felt very forced. It felt like he was reading a lot from teleprompter. Just a personal take. It didn't feel very personal to me. I was very excited for his TED Talk. When I heard that it's live, I rushed to watch it. But I was sort of disappointed. I expected better from him because he's amazing. He could have done so much better if he had not prepared that very well-worded script and just spoken from heart. Maybe it could have been right through my heart. But that didn't happen. And everybody fails to impress people sometimes. And it's okay. I mean, with all due regard to him, please don't mind it. Don't want to hurt you. Please don't stab me. I'm just telling you the truth. So what I used to do was, when I heard a word in a living sentence, right? Sentence somebody speaking on the fly, maybe in a speech or in an interview. So I was actually watching for the mood of the word also. When I would hear somebody speak a new word to me, I mean, even if it was across the screen, I would feel the essence of the word, the mood of the word. If it is spoken in a positive context or in a negative context, I would look up the word, understand the usage, try and use it somewhere. Some words are just easy, like I told you about fruition. Fruition is from the word fruit. So something ripening, that is fruition, right? If it wasn't a word that I had to look up, I just started instantly using it. You get it, right? So context made words easier to remember and far easier to use. That was the point. Point number 4 now. I revisited words before they could fade. Important. See, a lot of our active vocabulary disappears, and even the passive vocabulary, because we don't practice it enough. Now I understand there is this issue. How do we go back to words? If they are lying in my passive vocabulary, first of all, how would I find out that they are there in the passive vocabulary? Now, there is an easier way of doing this. And some words will disappear. They will fade away. You can't really help it. But there is a way you can try and move more and more words from your passive vocabulary to your active vocabulary and hold on to those active vocabulary words and not lose them over the time. That is to talk to yourself in silence. Talk to yourself more often. I'm talking about actually talking to yourself, actually speaking in English language, okay? Because when you're talking to yourself, there is this certain comfort. You're not judging yourself. You're very comfortable with yourself. You know your level. You know you make mistakes and you accept it. So it's easier to make mistakes that way. And when it is easier to make mistakes, sometimes your mind surprises you. You're reminded of words you will not be able to believe you knew. It happens a lot. If you will try it, you will know it. I mean, somebody in the comments, please tell me if this is something that happens to you. Please give people some assurance that I'm not talking just any BS. It actually does happen that way. When I talk to myself in front of my mirror, or I'm talking to myself without the mirror, just to myself, in the silence of my room, I surprise myself. I speak in words I did not even know existed. Existed in my vocabulary. So I understood quite early that memory is often fragile at first meeting, okay? A new word may impress you today and it may vanish by tomorrow if you do not return to it. The thing is that sometimes some people might feel, somebody who lives with you or hangs out with you a lot, they might feel that you're overusing a word. And it's okay. They may feel, why you keep saying this word again and again? It may be something fancy, but you keep repeating the word. And that is the time you have to tell yourself that it's okay. Even if you're repeating it, it's because you're actively trying to hold on to the word. You don't want the word to fade away. That's the only way to hold it from fading away. You can't go around with a diary in your hand, right? It will not look very decent or an intelligent way of improving your vocabulary. And don't tell anyone Alina said that to you. Don't carry a diary with you. You can do that in your purse maybe, but you can't every time you have to speak to somebody, open your diary and read from it, right? Impossible. They'll look stupid. Anyway, point number 5. I replaced familiar words with finer ones, but not all at once. Little by little. Small parts. Okay? I did not try to renovate my language in a single day. No renovation can happen. You can't even renovate a room in a day, right? How can you renovate something that's in your head in a day? In a single day? Not possible. That usually leads to stiffness, okay? You become very stiff when you are being too choosy with words and overly conscious and cautious about what words you're using. We don't want to sound like a robot. We want to sound human, right? So what I did was instead, I made small substitutions wherever I could, okay? I would notice a word I used very often and gently exchanged it for a richer alternative. And over time, what would happen was that these tiny refinements that I was making to my language changed the texture of the way I was speaking, the speech. And it made it much easier and doable than what a dramatic effort of this aggressive effort of doing it in a day would have. Am I making sense to you? I think I'm blabbering too much. I'll say that again. If you try to do too much in a day, by a day, I mean, it's just a hyperbole I'm using here. By a day, I mean maybe a shorter period of time. If you try and do it too much, it will sound robotic, it will sound dramatic, you'll not be able to remember most of it. You've got to space it out, make a comfortable breathing space for yourself, for your vocabulary to breathe in, okay? And that's how you do it. You repeat words and you let them automatically stay with you. My last point is I developed a taste for precision. What do I mean by precision? See, at some point, I stopped asking, will this particular word do? And instead, I started asking, is this the best word for what do I mean? See, what I mean is that I stopped trying to be impressive. I'm not looking for the best word in a scenario or bowl a ball that would knock off the batsman. No, I didn't want to do that. I don't want to impress the other person. I just want to use the best possible word to explain myself, my thought. Okay? Not just to randomly fit in an impressive word somewhere in the conversation. People do that. It's very noticeable and it doesn't look good. Don't do it. Okay? Just because you've learned a word, you don't have to necessarily push it in unnecessarily out of the context anywhere in the conversation. Don't do that. Rather, just ask yourself if your thought is well explained using this word. Okay? Instead of sounding impressive, keep it more about accuracy. Expressing your thought with accuracy. Okay? With nuance, with elegance. And once you begin to value precision, your language naturally starts becoming more refined. So these were 6 points that I wanted to tell you about, have changed my way of looking at vocabulary and how I learn it. But at the end, if I want to keep it very small and tidy for you to remember, one simple point, if I had to summarize everything for you and put it in a single sentence, I would just simply say, fluency is something that comes to you early, but vocabulary comes to you later. Vocabulary comes from observation. When the same words show up again and again, not just in your own talks, but also in talks of others, in articles, in podcasts, in videos that you watch, films that you watch, and you are more open to learning them with humility. That's when your vocabulary enriches itself. It's It's an automatic process. But what you have to do consciously is to be more proactive in keeping your observation open. That's it. I will not flood you with any more ideas. That's all about it. This will help you. Please be humble, kind to yourself, be patient. It's an easy language. English is not hard. Anybody can speak English. Anybody and absolutely everybody can speak English. It just requires very little effort, but every day. Every day. Okay? So please share this video with somebody who's struggling with this idea, who probably will benefit from this video. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet. I make these amazing informative videos every 4 or 5 days. I come up with some nice idea, new concept. I teach grammar also. So stick for grammar, stick for vocabulary, and stick for some great new ideas coming your way. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.